Spoiler alert. This video will contain spoilers for Season 2 of The Boys. What's up, everybody? It's me, E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews. Finally, we have come to the final episode of Season 2 of The Boys. This was great. I loved all of it. I mean, we finally got to the point where so many questions have been answered, I would say, from like a number of characters. I mean, and I love the fact that there was the action and there was some humor and there was drama. Like, this episode gave me so much. Now, I will say, in hindsight, after seeing this, there were some kind of like slower parts in the middle of the whole season, but this final episode, I think, makes everything worth it, and the payoff was so good. So with all that said, let's break down what happened. We kick off the episode with a commercial for school safety against supervillain threats. Looks like the US government is about to authorize a national emergency due to the threat of supervillains, and they're also going to authorize the use of Compound V for adults. Mallory and Congressman Newsom try to discourage this from happening, but they're running out of options and how they can stop Vought. Well, just like in the real world, you know, the Compound V is like a brand new weapon. So you're going to have like this arms race between world governments and terrorist organizations. Now keep this in mind. Everyone is looking for Compound V, right? And I remember something like in season 1 saying that there were only about 200 superheroes in the world at that time. Could you imagine what this would look like if everybody got Compound V? I mean, you'd have a world full of like superheroes where people are being villains. Then you got worlds that got whole armies and stuff. I mean, this stuff could really get out of hand. The boys are prepping to go to war with the Supes head on. Frenchie has a gun ready to take on Stormfront, and MM has enough drugs to blow up A-Train's heart. The boys are done playing games since they don't have any more options with all those witnesses that have now been killed. However, Annie and Hughie have a plan to go ask Maeve for help. When they reach her, Maeve does not want to testify or to help them. Well, I mean, look, Maeve is really going through it with her character. I mean, we've already talked about like how she's going through these relationship issues. I mean, she's already kind of like internally depressed, you know, with all the pressure and stuff that Vought was putting on her. So yeah, she's dealing with a lot and she's really just tired. I mean, the sad thing is she's given up all hope. But my thing was like, I'm a little bit surprised that Maeve isn't more nervous or anxious about what happens if Black Noir wakes up. I mean, she did totally blow her cover with the Seven while she attacked Noir. Speaking of the Seven, Noir is unresponsive at the moment, and Homelander is trying to make sense of everything that went down from the congressional meeting. Stormfront says that she had nothing to do with it, but she wishes she had. Main problem is that there are no known supervillains in America, so they assume that it's Mr. Edgar that's been coordinating the head-popping deaths. Stormfront admits that he is smart for his kind and continues to make even more racist comments. First of all, Stormfront. When I tell you I am so sick of her, and they clearly let her go run wild and turn up the racist volume with everything that happened in this episode. So yeah, I'll admit, it definitely got to me. And actually, from the looks of it, it looks like it was starting to get to Homelander too. Did you notice Homelander's face when she mentioned that she would have killed Dr. Vogelbaum too? I mean, let's not forget in season 1, Homelander was real pissed about Dr. V lying to him, but he did not kill Dr. V, even though he did kill Stillwell. So clearly, Homelander still holds Dr. V dear to him in some way. Also, there's a quick line that Homelander brings up when talking about Compound V. He asks, what about if the wrong people got their hands on it? And Stormfront said, don't worry, Frederick Vought had a solution for everything. Well, this right here plays right into my theory that I brought up in my past video. I did mention that while one of the weaknesses for the superheroes is their reputation, the other weakness that potentially could come about would be like another chemical compound that might have been developed to counteract the effects of Compound V. I mean, if the Supes were made, they can also be unmade. So I wouldn't be surprised if Stormfront just so happens to know about this kryptonite solution, and maybe it's a reason to bring her back later on. Mr. Edgar and Mr. Adana from the church are finally meeting. Mr. Adana pushes the idea of A-Train and the Deep returning back to the Seven. Mr. Edgar admits that Stormfront and her racism is the main problem with A-Train. Since she was also a former member of the church, Mr. Edgar reminds Mr. Adana that the church has records of Stormfront's problematic past. With all that said, Mr. Adana agrees to have the Deep move forward instead. However, A-Train was listening to this whole conversation, and he's obviously pissed off about Stormfront. Yo, I really like this this dinner scene because, Mr. Edgar, he was offered a fresca. He was like, no, terrible stuff. And it's so funny because I remember, I kept wondering, and I know other people were in the comments too, what's the deal with fresca? What is going on? Is there some weird, conspiracy going on or whatever? Turns out, I did a little bit of research, but it turns out that there's nothing deep about what's going on with the fresca. It's really just an inside joke. The showrunner, Eric Kripke, I believe his name is, he basically had said that, fresca just seems like a drink of cult members. So, it's just really a big inside joke. Nothing more, nothing less. Ryan is missing his mom, Becca, so Homelander and Stormfront decide to take him to planet Vought. With the growing crowds, Ryan starts to have what looks like an anxiety attack, so Homelander flies him away. Now, at first, I was kind of like, wait a minute, Homelander, how are you just going to bring your son out in public like this? Don't you think people are going to ask questions or, what's going on? There was no formal press, announcement or anything. But I did like the fact that Homelander actually noticed what was going on with Ryan and decided to take him to a safe place. Dare I say that Homelander actually earned a dad point there? Oh, and did you also notice that Stormfront didn't take any pictures with any people of color? After Annie and Hughie struck out with Maeve, Annie started complaining about her mom and felt like she was making Hughie feel awkward. Hughie admits that his mom isn't dead, but instead she walked out on him and his dad. Hughie also reveals that he simply doesn't want to be like his mom. Wow. I thought this was actually pretty deep. I mean, this explains why Hughie's been so clingy to people like Billy and even to Annie. He just doesn't like to give up on people because there's apparently an association with giving up, and, he ties that to his mother. I really appreciated this level of character insight because it really explains why Hughie acts the way he does. We see that Becca has escaped from Vought and made it to Billy and the boys. After learning that her son Ryan was taken away by Homelander and Stormfront, Billy promises to her that he's going to bring Ryan back. So Billy meets with Mr. Edgar. Both of them realize that Stormfront and her racism are a problem, but Mr. Edgar acknowledges that not only does she make people angry, but because of that, their stock prices go up because angry people want Compound V. He also acknowledged the conflicting position he's in as a black man having to deal with a racist person like Stormfront. He even takes a shot with his commentary on white privilege, saying that he can't lash out about it. When Mr. Edgar said that, that's not a luxury for a black person, it was kind of interesting to hear that from Mr. Edgar. I mean, I just didn't expect for him to actually say anything like that out loud, because what he was actually referring to was that problematic double standard as to when black people are riled up, where, they're viewed as violent or angry. But if white people get riled up, they're passionate or some other euphemisms. But yeah, I did not see that coming from him. You also have the other issue of how greedy capitalism can make someone like Mr. Edgar suck up his pride and deal with a racist like Stormfront, all for the sake of $1. By the end of the conversation, Billy strikes a deal with Mr. Edgar that he will deal with Homelander and Vought will have to come and get Ryan. However, Becca must stay with Billy. Now, I gotta say, when Billy made this deal, I was sitting here yo, dude, Billy, you dirty as hell. I mean, you know how much Ryan means to Becca, and basically, Billy was just being incredibly selfish here, trying to to rip her son away from her just so that he can be with his wife, and try and have things go back to the way they were 8 years ago. That was never going to happen. She's always going to miss her son and love her son. And that was just a real trashy move. Homelander brought Ryan back to the log cabin and they had a very nice father-son talk. Homelander showed his vulnerable side and even mentioned the time when he ran away and cried. He promises to teach Ryan about his powers and to be there for him, unlike anyone was there for Homelander when he was young. You know, I hate it when this show, like, makes me hate a character, and then all of a sudden, you show me some, like vulnerable side, and now I almost feel sympathetic for him. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that's great acting and great writing, and I can appreciate that, but, you know, it's just that we're so used to, like, you know, hating a villain, you know, just straight up. But I do like the idea of Homelander, because of his past trauma, kind of digging deep and realizing, like, man, I was screwed up as a kid. I don't want to do that to this kid. I want to be the father that I never had for Ryan. And, you know, like, and it's good because, you know, Homelander could be a jerk, you know, but he's choosing not to be in this case. And it's a really good way to actually connect with Ryan, because Ryan is a pretty sensitive kid. But I cannot wait to go back to hating Homelander. Hughie sends all of Stormfront's Nazi info to the press. Becca puts major pressure on Billy and makes him swear on his brother's soul to bring Ryan back to her. Billy makes that promise knowing full well about the deal that he just made with Vought. Again, at this point, Billy, you so trash. We go back to Homelander teaching Ryan how to use his heat vision powers. The training isn't going very well, so Stormfront decides to act like Darth Sidious from Star Wars and tries to teach him how to hate. She mentions how bad people want to take them out because of the color of their skin, and she also talks about white genocide. Just then, news about Stormfront and her Nazi connection has finally broke the news, and social media is going wild over it. Now, once again, once you saw Stormfront talking about all that white genocide crap or whatever, you could see Homelander's face kind of wincing a little bit. I'm just glad that people at least still hate Nazis, even though that seems to be still a low bar for some. While Stormfront is being distracted by her Nazi PR nightmare, the boys have laid their trap to distract Homelander away from Ryan by placing high-frequency sound devices at a different location. Becca and Billy come in to save Ryan in the meantime. Homelander stops the sound devices only to realize that they're all from Vought. He returns back to the cabin to find Ryan is gone and only Vaught's security team is there. Well, Homelander goes to town on them and kills the entire team. Now, there was something that stood out to me during this scene, and I don't know if you guys caught this. Did you notice that when the sound devices went off, you know, obviously both Homelander and Ryan were affected, but Homelander was kind of like able to tolerate it a little bit more, while Ryan, on the other hand, he looked like he was in legit pain. Could this be one sign that Ryan is just more powerful than Homelander? I kind of think so. Apparently, Billy has betrayed Vought and changed his mind about their deal. Instead of giving Ryan to Vought, he's going to save both Becca and Ryan together. Billy tells Becca to leave with MM, and as they set out, Stormfront immediately comes in to stop their escape. Now, when Billy was like telling Becca that, like, no, you got to go to MM, that's when they wanted to have this long, drawn-out conversation, and I'm like, would y'all please shut up? You need to leave. You got two psycho supers after you guys, and now's the time where you want to have an emotional goodbye, and no, I don't want to do it. Yeah, you got to leave. But shut up, leave, move, talk later, text, something. And then when Stormfront came through, I was like, oh no! That part definitely got me, but I will say I was very happy to find out that everybody was okay after she flipped the car over. But man, when Stormfront made that comment, when she said that people like what she has to say and they believe it, and that the only thing is that they don't like the word Nazi, she's not lying. I mean, look, there are far too many people that don't really understand, one, how racism works and how it's evolved over time, and two, what white supremacy ideology, how it really functions. So if you happen to hear stuff that, like, Stormfront has said, and, like, even if you find yourself remotely agreeing with it, you're also agreeing with white supremacy ideology. And I kind of like what this show is doing with her character, because I think it's actually kind of smart. Obviously, Stormfront is a very extreme depiction of what white supremacy ideology looks like, right? I mean, she's very upfront and clear with her racism. And she happens to be a Nazi. However, a lot of things that she says are not that far different than what white supremacist hate groups say in much more subtle ways that dog whistle to white supremacist ideology. Anyway, forget all that. Now it's time to get to the best part of this entire episode, and that is for Stormfront to get what's coming to her. Kimiko and Annie begin to attack Stormfront. As the battle rages on, Stormfront ends up snapping Kimiko's neck, and she destroys the weapons that the boys were going to use against her. Now, I might have to do a little bit more research on this, but I could have sworn that Annie had the power to like absorb energy or electricity or whatever and use that to, you know, basically be fuel for her own powers. But I was really sitting here thinking, like, can't she take Stormfront's lightning and, like, you know, shoot it back at her or something like that in her own power? I don't know. If anyone has any insight on that, please let me know in the comments. But forget all that. Now it's time to get to the best part of the episode, and that is when Stormfront gets her booty whipped. While Annie got pimp smacked away and Kimiko is down with a sore neck, Maeve comes in and starts pounding away at Stormfront. The other girls get up and everyone starts getting their licks and shots on Stormfront. Yo, Maeve with the save! Yes! Yes! Oh, I love this scene so much. Everybody was just beating the mess out of her. I'm just sitting there like, yo, whoop that trick! Whoop that trick! See, I know they were channeling that movie Office Space where they were beating up that Xerox printer or copy or whatever. This was great. And the whole time, I'm sitting there feeling like Kylo Ren, just like, more. Unfortunately, Stormfront manages to escape and she confronts Billy and Becca. She starts to choke out Becca until Ryan lost all control and blew her up. Stormfront at that point did her best cosplay of Anakin Skywalker from Revenge of the Sith. Sadly, Ryan's powers weren't enough to save Becca. Wow. Lot of emotions here. You know, I mean, it's messed up that Becca was dying. Ryan now is not going to have a mother. You know, and then Billy. You know, you also have Billy sitting here like he spent 8 years trying to find her and he's let his hatred consume him and, you know, also drive him to the point of trying to get back to her. Then he gets to the point where he actually has a change of heart, you know, to like protect both Ryan and Becca. And you do all of that only to lose your wife at the end. Oh, man, that was tough. And let's not pretend that Billy wasn't about to try and kill Ryan with the crowbar, you know, right after Becca's death. But something else to note here, I think this was yet another example of how Ryan could actually be stronger than Homelander. Last time Homelander used his laser vision on Stormfront, it was like, you know, some minor scarring and stuff that happened. But when Ryan did it, and, you know, granted, he might have been out of control with his emotions, he blew her up. Now, we haven't seen Homelander, like, go all out, but I don't know. Right now, it seems like Ryan's got a little bit of an advantage over the old man. You tell me, do you think that Ryan is actually more powerful than Homelander? Speaking of which, Homelander showed up, and apparently Ryan has a new superpower that can blow people back into time because Stormfront was babbling in German as if she was back in Germany during the 1930s. When Homelander called out to Ryan, Ryan ended up going back to Billy instead. Then yet again, Maeve shows up, and this time with the incriminating video of Homelander's plane incident. This forces Homelander to give up and to back off. And you know what? I loved how Maeve used the clear weaknesses of the superheroes against Homelander. I mean, she used the fact that he wants to be loved and he loves the attention. And you heard that, you know, as he was processing the threat from her, as all the people were cheering his name and stuff. Unfortunately, that is his crutch. Remember back a few episodes when Homelander was about to bang himself, but he killed Doppelganger, talking about he doesn't need anyone? Well, apparently, that was a lie. He does still want love and attention, and he's not willing to lose any of that. I also loved how Maeve did the one thing that's always been consistent in this show, and that is, you know, driving at the weakness of the superheroes by threatening to ruin their reputation. And using blackmail. I mean, in this show, if you know how to blackmail people and you have incriminating evidence, that's your superpower. Vought ends up flipping on Stormfront and blaming her for everything. There will also be no release of the Compound V for adults. They've locked up Stormfront somewhere, meaning that she is still alive. Homelander now has to suck it up and apologize to Starlight and continue working with both her and Maeve to maintain the appearances for the Seven. The leader of the church had a talk with both A-Train and the Deep. Looks like A-Train is back in with the Seven now that Stormfront is no longer in the picture. That also means there's no room for the Deep. Annie tells Hughie that she doesn't want to leave the Seven mainly because she wants someone to stay on the inside. We then cut to Billy with Ryan, and it appears as though Billy has arranged for Ryan to go with Mallory for safety. Well, I guess this just means that Ryan is going to go under some sort of witness protection program, and I don't know, maybe he'll actually have like an adoptive family or something. Maybe the CIA agents will raise him. I don't know. Hopefully they do something different than what Vought had, and really kind of help this kid not grow up to be a psycho like his dad. But this scene was kind of awkward and interesting at the same time. I mean, for a second there, I really thought that Billy was just going to be like, well, I guess I need to raise this kid. And I was actually looking forward to that. I thought it would have been like a dope change of pace where Billy for the longest time has hated Soups, and then all of a sudden, because of the death of his wife, that forces him to kind of like, maybe not like all Soups, but make the exception. Well, he's already kind of made the exception with Kimiko and maybe Annie, but like, you know, bring Ryan under his wing and maybe use as like an arc of redemption, raising Ryan the way that Becca would have wanted him to raise him and protect him. I mean, my goodness, could you guys imagine Billy raising a kid? A superpower kid at that? Come on, man, that would have been awesome. Well, Mallory tells Billy that all the charges have been dropped. The White House also has commissioned a Soups Affairs Department with some additional funding, so that probably means that there'll be more adventures down the line. Mother's Milk finally gets to go home to his family, and Frenchie and Kimiko, well, I guess they're just going to go out dancing or something. And Homelander is, brooding over the city? Bruh. We end the episode with Congresswoman Newsom talking with the leader of the church. And well, boom, there goes his head. Turns out she was the head popper this entire time. Well, I certainly did not see that coming. Did you? I kept thinking that was Cindy from the psychiatric, facility or whatever. But apparently Congressman Newsom has also had powers. Has she always had powers, or is this something that she like recently got? Maybe she was one of those people that took Compound V as an adult. I have no idea. And then on top of all of that, you got Hughie working with her. I'm sure that won't complicate things in the future. But hey, like I said, I think this series finale was fantastic. And yeah, I feel completely satisfied. I think this episode gave me everything that I could have asked for. And then some. There were twists and turns that I didn't see coming, and I love it. Like, now I really know why they gave season 3 the green light before season 2 even dropped. Honestly, the way this season actually ended though, I'm not really in a rush to get to season 3. Like, I think they ended it in such a way that like, if the whole series just kind of like stopped for whatever reason, I'd be cool. Matter of fact, I don't even know where they're going to go with this moving forward. Either way, I'm still super excited to see it. So what did you think about this season finale for The Boys? What were your favorite moments of this episode? And do you have any theories about what could happen next for season 3? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my video. I really do appreciate it. Well, since this is the end of my coverage for The Boys, I'm going to have to find another show to cover. And I think that's probably going to be The Mandalorian on Disney+. And of course, I'll be covering the Marvel shows when those come out too. So if you're new here and you like what you see, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss out the next time I drop a video. In the meantime, I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all. And until next time, I'll see you all later.